seconds. Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022, and we're gathered here for the special meeting of the Arts Commission in Council Chamber at 1666 North Main Street, Walnut Creek. The Arts Commission meetings have reopened to the public in person effective July 20th, 2021. Face coverings are optional for members of the public who enter city buildings who have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Arts Commission members will be participating from the council chamber, as you see us here today. Public comments can be made in person or remotely via Zoom as a courtesy, and technology permitting, members of the public may continue to provide live remote oral public comment via the city's Zoom video conferencing platform. However, the city cannot guarantee that the public's access to teleconferencing technology will be uninterrupted, and technical difficulties may occur from time to time. Members of the public desiring to provide comments as part of the meeting are encouraged either to submit written comments at least 2 hours prior to the meeting or attend the meeting in person. To provide a live remote public comment, join the Zoom video conference meeting. The meeting ID is 862-0376-2204, and the passcode is 627745. Should you choose not to provide comments but would like to view the meeting, you may do so in one of the following ways: YouTube Live, Comcast Cable Channel 1028, Rossmore Channel 26, Wave Channel 29, AT&T UVerse Channel 99, or live stream online on the city's website. Secretary, roll call, please.
That was very good. That was a lot of reading. Commissioner Meredith.
Here.
Commissioner Emanuel.
Here.
Commissioner Cowdery.
Here.
And Chair Klauber.
Here.
Thank you.
Under the California law, public comments at special meetings are limited to subjects on the agenda only. Therefore, public comment will be taken during the commission consideration of the item. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. Does any commissioner have questions on any item on the consent calendar? If none, then no questions or on the consent calendar items, then we'll call for a motion to approve the items on the calendar.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
I'll take the roll call. Commissioner Cowdery.
Yes.
Commissioner Emanuel.
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith.
Yes.
And Chair Klauber.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is an item for commission consideration, Lesher Center for the Arts Simpson Family Courtyard Mural Proposal. At this time, I invite staff to provide the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Stephen Huss, Public Art Manager. This is the continuation of the mural program initiated by the Arts Commission and staff, and we are at the third stage of review for this particular mural project. The first stage was establishing the project itself, the budget, and the panel, which was approved by the Commission in July 2021. And then in last December, the Commission approved the selection of the artist Mona Caron. Could you bring that? I think Mona is here with us. First, we're going to bring up the presentation. Briefly introduce it before we get to the artist. Mona is known for monumentally scaled, stylized but accurate murals of native plants as metaphors of community, connection, and healing. She recently returned from a project in Brazil, and she jumped right into research and development of the concept for us. Staff reviewed a proposal that she presented recently, and we were very, very enthused about it. Then we presented it to the Public Art Committee. They reviewed that on February 14 and fully supported. They are recommending the Arts Commission accept the proposed concept. We also ran that by the interim director of the Lesher, Carolyn Jackson, and Peggy White, who's the director of DRAA. They were very positive in response to the concept as well. Besides approval, the commission also commented, and the artist agreed, that an interpretive plaque would be very welcome because it would be great for the public to be able to see the thought process and the concepts and general goals behind the project. If we stay on schedule of the project, our painting would begin mid-March and take place over several weeks. This concept is original to the site. It's fully consistent with Mona's body of work, celebrating native and indigenous plants wherever she is working. She will be using very durable, supremely durable mineral-based paints, which are considered to be the only permanent paint medium by many conservators and public art programs. Are we able to bring Mona in visually or just, okay. She's attending virtually, so I want to invite her in now. Oh, yay, there you are. So Mona, I wanted to ask you if you could describe your concept again and walk through for the full commission, and then we'll welcome any questions they may have. So for this, just let us know every time you want us to move forward in the, to the next slide. And Orlando is operating and he'll respond.
Okay, you can move to the second page already. So first I would like to introduce the subject matter of my painting. I sort of take it that apparently from what we've discussed, I'm already known for some of my themes have actually been chosen as an artist, partially because of some fairly well-known themes of mine, which have to do with botanical subjects. Not only native plants, sometimes I paint weeds, but it's always kind of a featuring. I call them heroic portraits of single plants that are busting through an urban environment. And so this is what I would do here too. Typically I use a background as is in whatever condition it is. And at the leisure center, there is a surface of raw cement that I felt would be fantastic for this project, actually. And we are going to do a treatment to it that I can get into it in more detail if necessary. But so at first, I went about finding a plant subject that would be good for this place. And I found a native plant that gives me mostly on aesthetic grounds, one that spreads mostly horizontally in order to fill the specific space there at the courtyard of the leisure center well. And one that gives me an opportunity to kind of do what I do the best, which is kind of a slightly Baroque interpretation of forms that turn, of dimensional surfaces. And I found this particular plant, and it's a fun subject for me because it's exactly what I love to do most, which is to take a fairly nondescript, perhaps, plant. Like there's many, many yellow flowers. You know, there's nothing particularly uncommon about this plant seen from afar. But if you look at it more closely, it has spectacularly expressive leaves. And also I would take the opportunity to represent this common yellow flowers as give it some drama and a little bit of a presence that is more akin to my other work, which is, I call them heroic portraits of tiny little plants, you know. And so this particular plant, it's a balsam root, Balsam oryza, and of which there are a dozen species that are all native to Western North America. But this particular one, the deltoid, if in my research on Cal Flora and on other places that provide mappings of sightings of these plants, it became very clear that this plant is very, the occurrence of this plant is really specific to Mount Diablo. And it is also found further afield, sort of more in the Sierras in California, further away. But in the general Bay Area, it is really entirely concentrated on Mount Diablo. It's very specific to that place. And so it's very special to this place. And so I just wanted to delve into it further. Another characteristic of this plant is that it is, of course, as the name says, a balsam. It's a balsam. It has been used both for medicinal and for nutritive purposes by the Native Americans. It's a powerful antiseptic. It has been, all parts of the plants have been useful to the original peoples here. And so it is something that is actually becomes then, because of its usefulness to humans in that sense, becomes to me a bit of kind of like a metaphor for culture in itself, but I'll get to that in a second. You can go to the next slide. So this is a rough sketch of how I envision the plant spreading in that space. Again, this is a rough sketch, and I hope that if you've seen example of my work, that is more like the quality that you're going to see at the end. This is a rough sketch superimposed on a photograph, but it shows more or less how it would spread. And also one thing that you have to imagine is that I will paint it with a lighting effect that corresponds to the lighting of this courtyard, which is almost like a light well from above. We're almost sort of in a well, so to speak, and the lighting comes from above. So imagine rim lighting on those flowers up there, and so dramatic shadows. And also I took advantage of the existing flower planting area there in the corner. There's a rounded corner area there where there's currently some decorative plants. And I was thinking of making the plant grow directly out of that actual bit of real earth. And one of the reasons to do that is to take advantage of the architecture itself, and also to really like draw attention to, again, the name of the plant being balsam root. It has a taproot. It's a plant that has a very useful long taproot. There's a lot of it that goes underground. So like for us to think about the rest of this plant, which is a root, like, and communicating ideas of belonging to space, rootedness in the ground. And yeah, again, that metaphor of culture that I had, like very place-based, yet reaching higher beyond, sort of wildly occurring in nature, but actually super precious and very nourishing and healing, both nourishing and healing, as this plant is, as kind of a way of having a metaphor for the culture that goes on in this building, so to speak. You can go to the next slide. I guess there was a close up to that part I was saying in the corner. You can skip to the next. These are just some renderings of what it might look like from a distance. Currently, there is that, it looks like a banana-like shrub or tree that's planted there, and we discussed perhaps repotting that elsewhere and planting something low at the foot of the plant, perhaps even this very plant itself, finding seedlings for it. You can go to the next slide. Additionally, we were going to add almost like a little spin-off of this piece. The main piece is definitely the one in the corner, but there on the wall to the left of the garage entrance there, I would have seedling of the very same plant in a shape that, if you go to the next slide, there you go, that beckons you inwards. So it would be a very, very simple, tiny element that is just flags people that pass by from outside that there's something there to see. However, something simple enough that it doesn't detract from existing artwork on the outside of the building. And it's really just a teaser, just something that says, hey, there's more inside here. And so there was just like a little hook to add there to draw the public in, you know, give them a hint that there's something more to see there if one were to enter. And then next slide, please. That's actually just text. I just wanted to say something about the material I intend to use. This being a cement wall presents an opportunity to use in its most permanent possible fashion to utilize these potassium silicate based paints, which provide the strongest bond and adherence precisely to raw cement or raw gypsum type surfaces. They're also called, this technique is sometimes called cold fresco. Like, it's not an actual fresco, which is like pigment mixed into stucco that you put on the wall. So it is applied afterwards, but it does really look like a fresco, and it acts like a fresco, like it remains permeable to water. Water will go right through this. So it has an aging process that in Italian they call invecchiamento nobile, which means noble aging, like it ages beautifully in the way a natural stone would. So it will never do this thing where it peels off, or like water infiltration causes the paint to eventually tent and flake off. That will never happen, because this paint literally petrifies onto the wall. It turns to stone. And since it only utilizes 10 mineral-based pigments that have been used for centuries, those are also colors that will never fade. Not that this would be a concern in this case, because there's hardly any sun here, but still, these are, even the yellows or the reds will fade, like not in 300 years, they won't fade. And so this piece would age a bit like a stone or a fresco, and the colors will never fade. And I believe that is the end of my presentation, and see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mona. At this time, I'll ask my fellow commissions if any of them have questions for you.
I just have two. I know it says that it will never fade, but really, it will never fade? Is there a guarantee on that?
Yes, I can provide the spec sheets, and also can ask there are CAIM representatives that do this kind of routinely with the San Francisco Arts Commission. I know, because to explain what these things are, like things like real ochre or iron oxides occur in nature, and they are that color, and they will simply not fade.
Okay. And how many coats do you think that you will need to paint?
One.
Just one. That's great.
Yeah. And it feels very different than regular acrylic paint or anything. Again, it's it's sort of stone-like, it's kind of gritty.
Okay, thank you.
Like, it will age the way the cement will age. Like, it will age the way a fresco will age. Age will show eventually, but not by fading or by flaking off, but rather by showing the effects of moisture and nature upon that surface, which is actually a very beautiful look.
I was going to say, that may add to it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I also have two questions. I really love this plant that you chose, but curious to know if there was a competing plant to this one when you were selecting a plant that you would make your item.
No, when I found this one, because really the star of this mural will actually be the leaves, not the flowers. I tend to do that. And also I will paint this somewhat anamorphically. So I think the part of this plant that I fell in love with was the leaves and the way that it turned form. Mm-hmm. And I think that is going to be, as in all of my pieces, the star of the show. I tend to underemphasize the blossoms generally, so as to not make them very common flower murals. In this case, I think the difference you're going to see from the sketch is mostly the depth of, or like the contrast in light and shadow. And also the flowers are mostly going to be looking away from us a little bit, not like front towards us. So you're going to see more the chalice of the flower than the flower itself. And but I think the leaves will really do add the movement to this place that I'm really looking forward to. So no, I actually had other subspecies of the same plant that I was considering but then I realized that this one with this deltoid shape was the Mount Diablo one. Mm-hmm. And like, it was just well, I mean, I kind of have to do that one because, you know,
Yeah, that makes sense.
there's other ones that are really cool also that I also always because of the leaves, right? And this one has more of a shape like this.
Yeah, now that you mentioned the leaves, it does ring a bell with the other art pieces that you've completed, like the one in San Jose, for example, is mostly leaves. Yeah, thank you. Now, have you thought about a name for this?
I think I just balsam root, you know, perhaps like just call it the name of the plant.
How about invecchiamento nobile?
Invecchiamento nobile. I no, I don't.
That's it.
I'm not
Thank
sure I want to emphasize the aging of the piece so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? At this time, does any member of the public wish to provide public comments at this time? In-person comments will be taken first.
I might just have to take off my mask for a minute so I can smile. First of all, I'm so happy to be here addressing the Arts Commission tonight, and late afternoon, I guess. It's not quite evening. But DREA, we were really honored to commission Mona Carone to create this mural in the Simpson family courtyard. The Simpson family has been so supportive of the Art Center, and Sharon loves visual art so much, and she's just going to be thrilled. I love this mural concept in so many ways. It's beautiful and brings joy and hope. And I love what Mona said about nourishing and healing, which you all need right now. That's another really added bonus because it really does make you feel that way. And the other real exciting thing about it transformed the experience from the people that enter the garage from the courtyard from the garage, and then the teaser to draw people in with the small leaves to know there's something even spectacular in there. It's just quite wonderful. So I just want to share how excited we are to be a part of this project and thank all involved in bringing this to fruition. And we just look forward to future collaborations. So thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone remote that we know of?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you for those comments, by the way.
So if there's no one at this time that is remote? Nope? Okay, thank you.
Officially, I need to say, thank you, Chair. There are no other speakers wishing to make comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. This time, we're going to open it for comments by my fellow commissioners.
I'll go first. I just think this is a wonderful proposal, and I like the whole connection with Mount Diablo and healing and just bringing this whole concept of nature into that space, which is right now pretty sterile. I think it's just going to be a wonderful addition to the center.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I agree.
I agree as well. I think it's a wonderful project in that it is collaborative and it is going to really enliven that otherwise kind of gray space. One thing we did talk about at the Public Arts Subcommittee meeting is the idea of moving that electronic screen to a different wall because it does distract from the piece somewhat. So I'm hoping that that does happen. And I know you said you started to talk about that. But I really am very excited to see this start going on the walls in mid-March, it sounds like.
That was the shortest comment by Commissioner Emanuel ever. I'm also very pleased. I'm pleased about you in particular being the artist that was chosen for this because of your many, many examples throughout the world. It's very organic, speaks to Walnut Creek. It's needed on a building that is kind of not very, sort of a dry, not very ornate building. So this is a great complement to that area, and it's very inviting. All of the things that were said in the presentation, thank you for your presentation, and I can't wait for it to be done. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Did you want to say something else, Mona?
No, I think unless Stuart, did I forget anything?
If you mean Stephen, no, you did not.
We'll call him Stuart too. Sorry.
No, talk to another Stuart in Brisbane today. That's why I got confused.
Well, at this time, would someone like to make a motion, or I can go ahead and make a motion to approve the proposal by Mona Karen for a mural in the Simpson family courtyard at the Lesher Center for the Arts.
Is that a motion?
Yes?
Second.
I'll call the roll. Was that Commissioner Cowdery with the second?
Yes.
Thank you. Chair Klauber,
Yes.
Commissioner Cowdery,
Yes.
Commissioner Emanuel,
Yes.
and Commissioner Meredith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
I think that's
Thank you
it.
so much for having me. I'm very excited to do this project. Thank you for having me at the Leisure Center.
Ciao. Goodbye.
Thanks, Mona.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Obrigada.
All right.
Next on the agenda is an item for the commission consideration, which is the John Muir Medical Center Outpatient Building Public Arts Sites and Artists. Take it away, Steve.
Thank you very much. So this is a major public art program planned for the new development underway at the John Muir Medical Center campus. This is an outpatient oncology facility, which will be the hub of a comprehensive cancer network for the East Bay region, partnered between John Muir Health and UC San Francisco Health. The John Muir Health team brought on arts consultant Steve Dolan with Andrea Schwartz Gallery in San Francisco. Steve has worked on art and healthcare at other leading institutions too. And the consultant sought artists to meet the principles set out by the client and the development team, complementing the healing mission of the environment. He will tell you a lot more about that. Ultimately, the group recommended, or the consultant recommended 3 artists that perfectly suited the needs and opportunities here at the project. And they really thought carefully about the locations by which to reach the most biggest amount of the public and provide respite and healing opportunities for patients, healthcare workers, and visitors. Now, the art locations have been reviewed and are recommended to you by the Design Review Commission. I also just wanted to note that as a hospital healthcare facility, this development is only required to provide 0.5% for art by ordinance. The applicant, though, has indicated they may likely exceed that minimum budget by their choice. So I'd like now to welcome the other Steve in the room, Steve Dolan, to give you some background on the development project, its goals and features, and present the art sites and selected artists for your review and consideration.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Orlando, we're going to have to move kind of quick because I was told I only have 20 minutes and it's a lot to get in. So without further ado, if we can go ahead and bring up the presentation. And just to give you a little bit of a background, there's 3 locations that we've selected. And when the presentation comes up, you'll see some of the criteria that we used for the selection of those spaces. But one of the things that we definitely wanted to do was to provide a healing environment. Each one of these pieces, this is an oncology outpatient building, so the patients are going to be there for extended periods of time. They will have treatments that can cause, certain physical effects. It might be blurriness, dizziness, could be just exhaustion. And so what we're really trying to do is have a very healing, uplifting, encouraging environment for each one of the locations. And we wanted to spread it out throughout the campus. There is a large campus there already. There is some existing public art. Orlando, you can go ahead and move forward. And so just to give you a quick look here, here's the site overview. If you look over, there's Ignacio Boulevard. I can't point, so I apologize for that. But It's Ignacio Boulevard and La Casa Villa. The red highlighted circle right now where Orlando's pointer is, cursor is, exactly. That is the area. This is from an earlier Google map. Ground has been broken on this, so part of our goal here today is to present these locations and these artists and get approval on that, because there is definitely some infrastructure things that would need to be done now earlier than later. So that's one of the goals. If you also notice there, one of the themes of the new building is a walk through nature. So the idea is what we're trying to do is soften some of the hard edges of a medical building and make it feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit less sterile. And so that's being carried throughout the architecture, the plans of the architects, even down to the signage, which could potentially mimic trailhead signs and everything else. A lot of this artwork, the locations, you'll see I have the red trail marker, the lines going along that are all the red trails. So it actually does tap into a walking trail and other things there. So the idea is that we're going to create an environment just for the public and for the patients and for the staff at the hospital. Go ahead and move forward. This gives you a little bit of a bird's eye view again of that same thing. This is an early rendering. Some of the details in the landscaping are still being modified. And the beauty of it is a lot of it is that's being modified is around these pieces. So we're working in context with the landscape architects to create these kind of more intimate environments where somebody might go for a bit of respite, be able to contemplate, relax, and create different environments. So oftentimes these patients have to come repeated times, so it's not always the same thing. They can go to a different area, and so also the people who are supporting them. Go ahead and move forward. This gives you an idea of just some of the architectural details. I'm sure some of these things are going to be modified and hashed out a little bit differently, but this is from a rendering. But one of the things I definitely wanted to point out, because one of the first locations that we're going to look at is an interior piece. And so what I wanted to look at is if you look where the doors are going in, you'll notice that is a full height glass facade. Those are two-story main lobby, and then there's a secondary lobby that you will go in and go up steps to another lobby that also is a two-story lobby. Go ahead and move forward, Orlando. We can go ahead and skip past the budget right now. Let's go into the art location criteria. So again, just spread across the campus. We definitely wanted to make sure that we weren't concentrating all the art into one area. We wanted to spread it out. We wanted to also utilize some of the artwork as wayfinding, because now as the campus grows bigger and the parking's out there and these patients and people are having to come, we wanted to make sure that we could, have some of these powerful images that people would really understand where they were throughout the campus. Go ahead, you can move forward. So the blue dots represent some of the existing public art, and the red dots are representing the new building and the locations that we're looking at for the new public art locations. If you go ahead and move forward. Told you we were going to be moving quick. So again, here's that bird's eye view showing the location. So on the right, lower there, that's outside. That's on a street yet to be named, but that's the private road that's going to be taking you in off of La Casa Villa. So that will be very visible both from La Casa Villa and also from what's out of screen on this is a large parking area out to the right as you're looking at the screen. The two dots representing that look like they're on top of the building are the interior locations. So again, those are two-story lobby spaces. And then the fourth dot that you see over there is an outside piece that is, it's essentially what it is, there's a slope that goes to this building. So we're calling it a meditation garden, but it's an outdoor garden. You'll see some renderings of it a little bit more as we go along. Matter of fact, you can go forward if you'd like. And this is just highlighting the new locations, again, looking straight down on it. And you can kind of see now that one I was talking to on the far left, it looks like it's got a green roof. It actually, I won't have a green roof, but you can see there's a wall there. This is an earlier rendering, but right there will be a garden and a place for people to go sit and have some respite. And the idea, again, is we're referring to it as a meditation garden. So the artwork and the artists have been selected to create kind of more of a healing and calming and encouraging type of environment. Go ahead, move forward. This is just a quick one showing some of the walking paths, but I think we're going to skip through this, but it just shows that it's a high traffic, high visibility. And then this is some of the existing public art that is at the hospital. So we looked at these pieces not necessarily to, these locations and the artists, not necessarily to try to have something that was very common, but we really looked at it as a curated group of pieces. So we really wanted to create different environments and different experiences for the different patients. Go ahead and move forward. The guiding principles of the facility itself, and they use this for all of this, all of their construction, all of their interiors, and also the building of this is a peaceful, calm, inviting environment. Again, design promotes health and wellness, a cohesive aesthetic, intuitive wayfinding, so something that's not just signage, but ways that you can just feel like it, and then optimized views for the environment for patients with longer visits. Go ahead, move forward. The guiding principle for the artwork is very similar. It's peaceful, calm, positive, design that promotes health, wellness, inspiration. Again, cohesive aesthetics across all the building tenants, intuitive wayfinding, which is, again, where we're going to use some of that artwork to help with that. Optimized views for patients that have longer visits, again, creating respite areas. And then be visible during the day and night throughout incorporated, well-designed lighting. So we understand that these pieces are going to be visible during the day, but we also want to make sure that these pieces are going to be visible at night. Go ahead and move forward. And then what we really wanted to make sure is that we had artists that were unique to Walnut Creek, meaning that the artists themselves have never had a piece here in Walnut Creek. We wanted the artwork to be unique. Past work accomplishments, in other words, we wanted to make sure we were going to be working with artists that could handle the size and scale of pieces of this size and scale and budget. And then the design aesthetic that supports the John Muir Health vision. Go ahead and move forward. So the first artist that we're going to be reviewing is Tally Fisher. I'm not going to go into too much of the detail on Tally right now. Interior lobby, again, these suspended artworks. Go ahead, yep. And again, this is just to reinforce that both lobbies will have this full 2-story windows. Go ahead. So this shows kind of the north main lobby as you come in. You're on the lower level. You'll ascend up through the stairs and go through this kind of corridor and then reach the south main lobby. And what will happen there is, again, you're literally going up 2 stories and then you're going to be into another 2-story space. What you can't see right now is right in the middle in that narrow space will be the elevator lobby. So as you come out of that lobby, we wanted to make sure that you would be able to look right or left and also see any of the artwork and to help, again, reinforce wayfinding and limit confusion for people. Go ahead to the next slide. And this shows it a little bit more detail where this is cutaway, but you can kind of see, again, the glass facades that are both 2-story full glass facades. So you'll be able to see this piece or if you want to look at it as 2 pieces. But there will be a little bit of a message. The same artists were presenting for this area. There will be definitely a consideration or a dialogue between the 2 pieces. Go ahead, move forward. This is just from renderings from the artists, from the architects, excuse me. Smith Group is the architect firm here. And this is showing some early ideas of some lighting that we have already had rendered in. We're looking at a little bit longer lighting, but again, we were already taking into consideration in the early renderings how this artwork was going to be lit, and what artwork could go up there that would be appropriate. So go ahead and move forward. And then this is the other lobby looking across to the lobby we were just looking in. So you can kind of see what I mean as far as the elevators there on the left side. That's the elevator bay. And one of the things, again, we took into consideration is also, if you notice, those are actually patient and office offices and everything on the upper level there. So you see the glass there. So we wanted to make sure that the artwork was going to be seen not just from the people entering the building or in the lower level, but would also be appropriate and be looking just as beautiful from that upper level where you're in the upper offices looking out to the artwork. Go ahead, move forward on that. So this is an example of some of Tally's work. Tally works with perforated aluminum panels. These panels are powder coated in various colors. One of the beauties of this work is that as you walk underneath it, I call it almost passively kinetic, to the same way clouds are. As you walk underneath this piece, your viewing angle is going to change. And as you look through the pieces, you see the other piece or a piece that might be suspended above it. So the density and the color changes a little bit. So as you walk by, it has that feeling or that emotion. Go ahead, move forward. And this kind of reinforces the scale and the size. Again, this actual piece is in Las Vegas International Airport. But you'll see, how bright those colors can be and how they look lit at night. And the lighting in this particular installation is actually very limited. If you notice, they only have a few spotlights on the upper part of it, and then it's really the ambient lighting. But it shows how rich and saturated Tally's powder coating colors can be. Go ahead and move forward. This is another installation. I put this in simply to kind of show the size. That's actually Tally right there during doing an installation. But you can see the size of some of these pieces. You can also see if you look up there, again, as you look up into that canopy, so to speak, or up into that upper surface, you start to also get these little moire patterns that start to happen because of these perforated aluminum panels. Go ahead and move forward. A little closer detail. This I put in because I wanted you to see the attachment methods. Now, this particular attachment method is using rods. We're looking at using more of almost like a really thin aircraft stainless steel cable. But all of the connections going into the ceiling will be painted the color of the ceiling. So we're trying to minimize as much as we can those connections. So you're not going to be interrupted by, and we're also trying to minimize the amount of connections, and Tally's very good at that. So multiple pieces could be connected to one strand. And there's a lot of reasons for that we don't need to go into, but seismic could be one of them, et cetera, because it works as a unit. Go ahead to the next one. Again, this is another one, just as you're looking up, but you can see some of the powder coating techniques that Tally has perfected, where you have that gradation of color on one panel, and that's actually not very easy to do with powder coating. But she's an artist, and that's what she gets to do. So go ahead and move forward. And then this just gives you an idea of this, the dramatic height that she can create with these pieces. And again, showing you how it looks, how that natural light coming through the windows is going to affect. So all throughout the day, this is going to change. And if you go ahead one more. Again, it's kind of the same effects. We can keep going because I got to. This particular one I wanted to put in because this shows what it looks like at night. And so this is kind of what we're looking at. So at night, when these pieces are lit, and again, if you look at this installation, it's also limited lighting, really. It's spotlights that are up there. We're looking at a much, I don't want to say more lighting, but more evenly distributed lighting that will go out throughout these pieces, so we won't be creating these little hot spots and everything. But you can really see how you see it from the outside, especially in that middle piece. So again, we're looking at this not just being for the interior piece, but at night especially. As you drive by La Casa Villa, you'll be able to look right down into that lobby and see the suspended artwork. Okay, go ahead and move forward. So the next artist we're looking at is Barbara Gagaitis, and if you go ahead and move forward. This is on the southeast, what we're calling southeast entry. So this is right here off of La Casa Villa and the new, yet to be named private road that'll be going into the campus. Again, there is a grade there. There is a drop that goes down. So as people walk along La Casa Villa, you'll be able to look down and see this sculpture that we're looking at there. And then for this particular place, what we were kind of looking at is a sculpture that's approximately 20 feet high. We're looking at a sculpture that might actually include some internal lighting, so lighting would be a part of it. So at night, that piece would be lit internally. So Barbara is known for that, and you'll see in some of her other actual work samples. Go ahead and move forward, Elena. Again, this is a bird's eye view, just kind of giving you an idea. If you could go forward one more. Again, I'm going to move through some of this quickly, but this is what I'm talking about. Now, this is a very early rendition of what we were envisioning for this corner, but the idea being is that we were going to create a intimate location that someone could go there, they could sit, they could have lunch, they could wait for somebody if they wanted to be waiting for somebody. But again, also it just creates an intimate environment for the sculpture. So instead of you always just passing by, if you choose to, you can go and spend some time with it. And when you look at a piece of this scale, a monumental sculpture that might be 20 feet high, I think oftentimes just driving by doesn't give it justice. So if you can actually go and sit there and be with it, there's a visceral effect that you actually get from the work. Go ahead and move forward. So this is an example of some of Barbara's work. Actually, this was an inspiration when I was presenting to the John Muir team. They fell in love with this piece. It does talk to nature. It talks to a lot of things. When I approached Barbara about the idea, Barbara is very, very accomplished, and she takes site, location, the natural environment, all of those things into consideration. Unfortunately, this type of work just wasn't going to work there because this piece really, it's in Kansas, it's flat. And so you can always see from this angle here, we have rolling hills. We wouldn't get the sun angle the same way and everything else, but we were able to use this as a kind of a kickoff, or at least a starting point with Barbara. Go ahead and move forward. And this again shows just how Barbara integrates light into her pieces. If you look to the right, those same pieces that you see during the day, that they actually turn into the negative, where you actually see that really powerful light coming up through the piece. Go ahead and roll forward, Orlando. This is another example of Barbara's work, just again showing how her work both translates during the day and also in the evening. Go ahead, you can roll forward. This is a slide that just shows kind of the breadth of her work, how she can actually incorporate it into functional. Go ahead, Orlando. Again, this is another example of her work where these pieces are, during the day they speak, very powerfully on their own. And then at night there's a subtle lighting that you can see coming through the work. Go ahead, one more. And then this is another example of some of her work. And you'll see in this piece actually where there's a lot of that. You can actually see the internal lighting there that's coming up into the piece. If you go one more. Again, from a different angle. But you can see how the light, she really integrates the light. She also plays with the light. If you look at the piece on the left, you'll notice that the interior light that's coming from one side is being reflected on the surface of the other side. So it creates that little glow that you kind of are seeing there, where that green looks a little bit more powerful in that open space. Go ahead, scroll one more. The next artist is Joe O'Connell with Creative Machines. So we're looking at Joe's work for location 3, which is the meditation garden and retaining wall. Go ahead, scroll. This gives you a little bit better idea of what I was trying to describe from the aerial view. You can kind of see that this is on the outside of the building, there's an open space that's back there. The landscaping here was just kind of dropped in, so the landscaping will be a little bit different, and all those details are being worked out. But that red shaded area back there is a wall that's about 19 feet 6 inches high by almost 50 feet wide. So we are looking at a wall relief piece that would be attached to that. Go ahead, scroll forward. Again, this gives you an example of what the visibility of that piece. You can see how large that piece is. So as somebody's walking along that sidewalk, now there will be landscaping, and you'll see on the landscape plans there's going to be trees, but we've already looked at the type of trees. The trees are going to have a high canopy because it is a sidewalk. Obviously, you don't want people walking into branches, so you will be able to see straight through it and go into that. We've also encouraged the artist to explore the idea of going up above and beyond just the wall surface, so to carry the piece up a little bit higher to help soften maybe and breaking up that real strong rectangular feel of that. Go ahead, Orlando. This is some of Joe's earlier works or works that he's done. You'll see he uses sometimes a lot of words and messaging. In this particular case, we're not looking at using any words or messaging, but again, it shows you that kind of that nature. He's got those trees kind of incorporated in there. Go ahead. And this kind of shows the diversity of Joe's work. So here's another piece completely different. This is actually part of a water fountain. It has a kinetic feel, but it's actually not kinetic. Those elements They move slightly because of the material and the way they are, but they don't move. They're not motorized or mechanized in any way. But you can see the lighting changes. Go ahead. Move forward, Orlando. And this just kind of gives you an example of some of these cutouts of these, different pieces. And just more importantly, what I was really trying to show is lighting is going to be critical for this piece. So what we're exploring with this piece is a design that would actually be lit from behind. So at night, that piece then becomes almost the negative of what it is during the day. So if you look at the piece, if you look to the right on the top, you kind of see, now obviously this was for a zoo. We're not proposing rhinoceroses and whatnot, but you'll see how that same artwork, when lit from behind, then creates this other kind of environment, this other message. Go ahead, if you could. And this is just some examples of some of Joe's work, showing kind of a playful whimsiness. Go ahead. And then this kind of shows, Joe's very accomplished with using lighting. So this is actually down in San Diego, hence the Nautilus kind of shell. But he's using words in there. He's got the lighting coming out, and you'll see how the words then are transposed. Again, we're not necessarily looking at that, but it just shows his ability to understand lighting and how light can be integrated into the artwork. Go ahead. This is just a piece that is, it's actually an interactive, it's a kinetic piece. It's one that I had in there, but we can go ahead and move forward. It doesn't really relate to this. That's it? Okay. I think I got it in 20 minutes.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I just wanted to, as a footnote, as a reminder, what we're asking from the commission is approval of the sites and the selection of artists, not the concepts. So those concepts will be coming back to you, and I think maybe as soon as your next regular meeting in April.
Thanks for the clarification.
So we would stand by for questions for myself or for the consultant.
Thank you. Okay, the same. I will.
I'm sorry. I also wanted to invite, I knew there were two things.
Go ahead.
I also want to just repeat that the Public Art Committee reviewed this and approved and recommend them to you. So wanted to see if either member of the committee has any comments they'd like to say about their findings from on this since the meeting.
I think both Glynis and I were pleased. I don't want to speak for her, but I think we were both pleased with the locations. I thought those were the logical places. And I think the artists that you've selected will be able to do something really special for those 3 locations. And I think it was discussed about concerns I know that some of the commissioners have had in the past about being so dependent on lighting. Mm-hmm. And that this is a little bit different because this is truly a 24-hour location. People are coming and going for all the time. So I think as long as the pieces are strong in the daylight and strong at night, I think that was a positive.
Thank you.
I think also the fact that you were selecting artists that are unique to Walnut Creek, that's something that the Arts Commission really appreciates.
I'd like to know if the commissioners have any questions.
I have a few, and I guess in terms of location, I'm a little concerned about the 3rd location with the wall. I don't quite understand the access to it, where it can be seen from the rest of the hospital, because it doesn't seem to me that it would be seen from the front, unless, my question is, will the artwork be on both sides of the wall?
No, that wall
So
is actually.
it's kind of like on an inside wall.
It's not an inside wall. It's an exterior wall that's on the side of the building. Can you actually go forward? Yeah, go all the way down to the. It'll be. Yeah, sorry.
I know, I wanted to ask you as we were going along.
Yeah, it's going to be down. Further. Oh. I'm sorry.
Okay, there.
Yeah. So if, to the right there, you'll see that railing that's up on the upper part. That is a sidewalk that will be connecting people both from the main entrance. So if, to give you some orientation from here, if you were to come back where the person is sitting on the bench and go to the left, that's the main entrance of one of the lobbies. And so this, as you come out and come around, so you'll come out, you'll be able to walk straight from there. And then from this vantage point, could you go one more? If you look right there where that person is, there's stairs going down to that. So anybody who's walking along that sidewalk, right at that corner, there's stairs that go down to that lower meditation garden. And also you'll see, you can kind of see how the railing goes down to
Oh.
the front.
I see.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so as you come out, so
Okay.
it'll be very visible as cars come, both to vehicular, but again, we were concentrating also on, mostly on pedestrian and,
So in that slide, where you can see that two people are within the red zone, that is the side the art is on.
correct, it's right, that red area that you see is exactly where the art is. So as somebody walks up there, you're gonna see it.
Okay. Good, that's fine. Also, you mentioned, well, first of all, when you showed us the second lobby, I was curious about how people get into that lobby, and then you mentioned something about a hill. So can you tell me more about the hill?
Well, the hill is just a metaphor. So the idea is that when you walk into one of the lobbies, it's lower, and as you go up through the steps, it's almost as if you're ascending a hill, like you're walking up a hill to this other area. So we're looking at the art concepts. I've encouraged the artists to use that as maybe a metaphor of walking through nature, again, following with the theme of the building and kind of the overall messaging that we're trying to, again, create kind of a positive, welcoming environment. But we want both of those lobbies to be distinct, but they have to have a dialogue. They have to talk to each other a little bit, but we want them to be distinct. So if somebody's spending time in one of the lobbies, or if somebody's coming out of an elevator bay and looking to the right or left, they'll get some visual clues to where they are.
So
And
there's
both of those lobbies, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Sorry.
off. No, it's just both of those lobbies are entrances, so they both have doors. And so the other lobby will, on the other side from, I don't know if we can go back to it. Yeah, there's an elevation change there. So the building itself has an elevation change. So as you go in, you're gonna walk in, and then it's set into a hill. So as you go up, you'll be coming out at ground level on the next, if you went from that way, or reverse. If you come in and go down, you'll be coming out at ground level because the building's set into a hill.
How do you get into the second level?
Can you, well, you're gonna have to scroll all the way back to the front. Again, there's a car pull-up for both locations, and there's also doors to both locations. So you'll be able to come in through the doors. Yeah, so if you look here, for instance, if you look, Orlando, could you see that kind of blanker space at the bottom? No, yeah, right there where the cursor is. That actually is gonna be below ground. And so the ground actually, there's an elevation change if you look at that as it comes from up to that, yep, there. The ground on the outside will actually be coming down. Does that make sense? So it's kind of built back into a hillside?
The right side is La Casa Villa.
Right,
The left side is internal to the campus.
right. This is Lisa
Okay.
Bruce, by the way. She's
That's
with John Muir Health.
Just thinking about that area right now without any landscaping and earth moving, it's pretty flat. There's not much of a hill from La Casa Villa into there's a little bit.
Is it-
Maybe it's just enough. I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly.
Okay.
Would you like to come in and speak to that? No, we can't hear you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Lisa Bruce with John Muir. If you go out there today, you'll see at La Casa Villa, the street level, if you go out and see the site now, it's down quite far,
Okay.
that lower level that's dug in. So on the right-hand side there, people can enter from La Casa Villa on grade. And then as you drive around the site, right, you know where the John Muir sculpture is? You drive around, internal to the campus, you make a right, where you can't really make a right now. the parking garage is right in front of you.
Mhm.
You make a right there and you turn up, you turn towards the building and there'll be a drop off there.
Okay,
So there are two entrances to the building.
okay.
So that, I think what we're showing here is how that artwork, in terms of wayfinding, kind of connects those two entrances. It's really
Okay.
important for wayfinding for the patients.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay. Um, uh, I think some of my other questions are more related to art concept. But I do want to ask you, how far along are you in conversation with the artists about their art concept?
Conceptually, we're pretty far along, but we're not enough that we didn't want to present because there's infrastructure issues and things like that that we need
I
to get
understand.
resolved and things like that.
I understand.
But some of the
that.
concepts have been more hashed out because, for instance, Barbara's work is a little bit more traditional in the sense that it's a freestanding sculpture, whereas Tally's work, being a suspended piece, there's things that we need to work out. Everything from fire or sprinkler heads and, open space and all those things. So that's kind of we're still working out all those details along the way.
I know you're talking about only location, but is Tally thinking of the hanging kinds of things, or, I mean, the ceiling kind of thing, and some hanging things, or?
I mean, early on, yes, kind of the upper area, we're looking at something that might be a little bit more suspended in a horizontal, and then the lower area we're actually looking at trying to fill that whole volume, so as you walk up the stairs, you would actually be looking into the artwork. You wouldn't be going through the artwork for obvious reasons, we can't have it that close, but as you walked up the stairs and looked over to the right, you would be looking into the artwork.
Okay. Should we move on to some other commissioners?
I have a few
You,
questions.
you can always come back to
I
me.
know.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner
Kadri. One question I thought of when I was looking at this again, because I walk by here at least once or twice a week. I know on the new parking lot that's across the street, they've put up solar panels over the parking lot. Are they going to do that same thing here? Because I'm a little concerned that it
You
could,
mean over to
the right, yeah, the new parking lot that's going to
the
be.
new parking lot on the left, that's temporary, I don't believe so, Lisa, she's talking about the drop-off.
The new parking lot, so the parking lot that's going to be to the right of
There's
this
not-
building.
But there won't be any solar panels, there's not gonna be any solar cover. The drop-off. No.
No, but I mean in the parking lot, the one that's right next to the building, because it could affect the view of Barbara's piece.
Oh, no, because there's the road. You know what, there's the road, and I don't think
No.
solar panels wouldn't block
Right there.
any of that view to Barbara's piece.
You don't think so? Okay.
Right.
All right.
Will be really prominent.
I think, can you put your cursor, see the parking lot that's down to the bottom? Yeah, that area is what you're talking about, correct?
No, I'm talking about this parking lot over here on the right side. So if I'm on the Casa Villa looking at the building, the parking lot that's to the right.
Yeah, I know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
No, I don't think,
Could you
I mean.
speak into the mic, please?
Oh, sorry. No, it won't, it won't block Barbara's piece at all. I mean, I wish we had, sorry, we didn't bring a whole, we can address your question in an image,
Okay.
because we weren't prepared for that today, but it wouldn't block. I mean, Barbara's piece, it's 20 feet tall, and it's going to be very prominent on that corner. You're going to see it, and nothing would block it from that side because we have the road there.
So maybe when you come back with the concepts.
Yes, we
that
can
could be just-
illustrate
As well
that.
as landscaping, more specifics about landscaping.
Yes.
I do have one other question. What is the plan for the artists to kind of collaborate to make sure that the pieces play nice together?
There's not so much a plan for that as for myself and the rest of the committee that has selected the art and then are going to review the concepts. But one of the things that kind of came out at the very early stages is when I presented to them, I was understanding the committee, when I say the committee, John Muir Health's committees, what their aesthetic was and also what their vision was. And one of the things that came out is they didn't want everything to be matchy-matchy. They wanted things to feel like they were curated. And there's enough space between each one of them. But kind of the underlying theme that's going through all of it, again, is nature. So we're trying to really pull from the idea of nature and reinforcing that kind of healing strength of nature, that regeneration of nature. And so the artists have really embraced it. So I think, you know, from some of the early things that we've seen, there will definitely be a connection between the works.
But the connection, but with enough diversity so they don't look,
Exactly. There will be a thread.
okay.
It won't, you would not mistake one for the other. You would not say, oh, must be that same artist or anything like that.
So are they at all seeing each other's work so that,
Not at this stage.
okay.
If you give us approval, they will. And we'll have it for, you know, again, as Lisa alluded to, is that, you know, we are currently working on not just the concepts, but the ideas. And when we come back, we'll have full video. So you'll actually be able to see the pieces in what is the designed environment that they will be in. You'll be able to see the artist's renderings. We'll be able to move through it. So
Okay.
we're hoping it'll be quite a bit more comprehensive than what we're doing here today.
All right, thank you.
I can go. I want you to talk to me about artist selection and inclusion and diversity in that.
Well, the way I present when I started working with John Muir Health, and this is the first time I've actually worked with them, so I start off with quite a large presentation of everything from different materials, different artists, artists that have messaging. Is it realism? Are we doing something more abstract? I start very broad, and as I go through that initial presentation, I start getting feedback and immediately start feeling from them, you know, yeah, I like that, no, I don't like that, this and that. But to give you an example, for instance, on Barbara Gugaitis' piece, the one that was in Kansas with the son, one of the people on the committee and pretty much everybody said, oh yeah, we'll take 2 of those right now. I mean, so that was how fast they really were drawn to Barbara's work. As far as diversity, I have many different artists in that presentation, but I let the message and the aesthetic of the art drive it. I don't necessarily push a certain artist because of a certain, you know, ethnicity or anything like that. It's just simply a matter of, in this case, we end up with 2 women artists and 1 man. Does that answer your question?
2 white women and 1 white man?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know about the demographics of Walnut Creek or the demographic of the patient population at John Muir?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's diverse. I know it's not 100%. But again, I'm not necessarily driving the public art based off of that, or at least I'm not driving my client to it. I am presenting artists of many, many different ethnicities and international, you know, I mean, they're international artists from all around. It's just what they gravitate to is the artwork. They don't even necessarily at the beginning, they know it's a woman because of the name, Barbara, but they don't necessarily know what she looks like or anything. I don't present that way. I'm not going in to say, these are the people I think you should use. I'm going in to say, these are a vast selection of people. Let's narrow down what you're really interested in, and then I make sure that I vet those people for being able to handle the project and be able to also work within the budget. In other words, I can't show somebody that gets $3 million for a piece. It just doesn't make sense.
So in the selection of the art pieces, is there any item associated with the patient's diversity, their backgrounds, and how they may want to feel while they're in the hospital?
No, I wouldn't say. I mean, again, I think the underlying nature is kind of the underlying theme, and then something that, for instance, we looked at some artists that worked with like dichroic glass and things that would have kind of a light. But one of the things that, again, happens to a patient when they're in there is that oftentimes their eyes, they have dizziness or they have blurriness. So we really looked at those kind of things. I don't know if that's answering your question, but from...
Yeah, not necessarily, but I get the point. I get the gist. Yeah, thank you. And the other question that I have is about this being actually public art. So I don't know if this question is for you or perhaps to the John Muir representative, if you want to get up there on the podium. How accessible is this art going to be to the public in general?
Well, I mean, my office used to be at this site, and I used to look out over this site every day, and it's amazing how accessible this site is to the public, that not just patients, not just visitors, but people in that whole neighborhood walk through that site. They walk their dogs, they use the trail, they ride their bikes through there. I mean, I would see it every day when I would sit in my office. And so it's John Muir, and I work there, so I love it. But when you drive by La Casa Villa and you see the art that's there currently, the mountain range, it is a public piece of art. Even though maybe you're not necessarily interacting with it every day, but as a person that's coming down La Casa Villa or coming to the trail, it is a very public piece of art. And I mean, we are a hospital, so we can only provide so much to the public, right? I mean, we don't have a closed campus, but I mean, people go through there all the time. And when it's open, when that parking lot is open now, because now you can't get through.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't point, but there's a road that goes along the front of the hospital in front of the parking garage, and that will be an actual interior street. It will come all the way through, and you'll be able to connect up to the trail.
That's excellent.
Yeah, so it's actually like an interior. It's like a real street. It will be a real street.
So it's accessible to the public.
Yes.
And so anyone without any association or business with the hospital.
Yes, can walk right through there.
Walk right through it.
Yeah,
And
experience the art. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, and can I just say one more thing about what you commented on previously about the selection?
Absolutely.
So we had an interior art committee with John Muir, with our leadership, and also with the leadership of the Cancer Network. And so we did take a lot of really careful thought about the patient experience, because this is a cancer center. Even though it is public art, it will be accessed by cancer patients every day during their treatment. So there was a lot of consideration given to the selection of the artists of what the patient experience would be, not only the public, but also the patient experience.
What's the demographic approximately of your patient population?
I'd have to get you that information off the top of my head. I don't know. But we could come back with that.
Are you saying that you consider that the diversity of your own hospital population that's coming to the hospital?
It was mostly about the cancer patients, and what their experience would be in this facility.
But they're from different backgrounds, I assume, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you.
I have a couple more questions, please. This is on our agenda report. On the second page, I'm just curious more than anything. It says, let me find it again, darn it. Oh, I thought I had it. Okay, it's the third page, I guess. It says, the program will create varied artwork environments to relax and recuperate. For example, one artwork may be contemplative, the next energetic and uplifting. So I know that there's a lot of written information out there as far as art and healing and patient experience, as you were saying. And just, I'm curious as to how that works out to be contemplative but energetic and uplifting. How did you look at these artists in those terms as well?
Well, again, I think some of it was just from their past work and work that they had done, things that, that the committee kind of responded to and felt not just aesthetically, but also emotionally, how that artwork inspired them. And I think it wasn't so much that we were trying to look at one artwork that could evoke all of those. We wanted to create, again, different environments. So one might have a little bit more energy or a little bit more whimsy. One might be a little bit more contemplative, you know. And again, some of it really comes down to the location. There's a mezzanine, for instance, that is in the lobby area. So when you go from the lower lobby up, you can actually go over and there's some seating right there. And so you'd be looking straight into the canopy of one and then across, and you would see the bottom portion of the other suspended artwork. So trying to create almost the way Frank Lloyd Wright would, where you create these kind of individual spaces in a much larger environment where each one of those spaces has its kind of own special feeling. For the sculpture that's on the outside on the new yet-to-be-named drive off of La Casa Villa, the Barbara Gugaitis that we were talking about, creating an environment working with the landscape architects that is going to create its own environment for that location. So, you know, as someone goes there to, again, sit, have lunch, or is just waiting, or just wants some time. And so we're trying to make sure that there's enough space around that. And also because it is, again, like I said, a monumental piece, not to only see it from one side all the time, to be able to go in and experience the art and walk around it and get that kind of experience.
Okay, and so shape and color will vary to create those different moods as
Yep.
well. Sounds good. And I want to go back to the trees to be sure that the canopies aren't going to interfere with Barbara's piece and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, matter of fact,
And-
we've looked at that extensively. We've moved trees. I mean, you know, we have to have a certain amount of trees per the construction, but we've moved trees in order to give really strong sight lines from La Casa Villa. I think we talked about that a little bit. And again, as you walk down, matter of fact, I don't know if you can see the slide that's up right now, but that red circle again, that red line is kind of showing coming off La Casa Villa, walking down that road, and right there, wait, go back up a little bit, right there will be about where Barbara's piece will be. So to answer your question about public access, people will literally walk right down, walk right past that as they go back to that trail that goes all back along the canal there. And, you know, I know a lot of people use that. So, and they can always take a left and go through the street. So, go ahead.
And how active is that building in the evening in reality?
The oncology building itself, probably not quite as active. It'll be open till late, but it won't be open. I think the lobby will be open 24 hours, correct?
Yeah, but the building, I mean, it's not the hospital. It's not the hospital. It's not 24/7. Yeah.
Right. So how important then is the lighting?
Well, the lighting will be, those lobbies are going to be lit.
They'll be lit?
Yeah, they'll be lit all night. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so the artwork will definitely be able to be seen from the outside at night. You can go down and go into the lobbies if you choose to. If you want, you can always come back and go down and look at it during the day if for whatever reason, but there will be accessibility to it.
Okay. I think that covers it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, does any member of the public wish to provide public comments at this point? In-person comments will be taken first, and if you're remote, please use the raise hand feature or press *9 if you're connected by audio only, if you would like to provide a public comment. Are there any public comments? No.
Thank you, Chair. There are no members of the public wishing to make comment at this time.
Thank you. Well, since there are no public comments, this is the time to open it up for comments by my fellow commissioners. Who's going to go first?
I'll go first. I think first I'll start with the locations. I think those locations are the most accessible, and they're going to be visible to a large number of people. And while the building may not be 24 hours a day, that campus is, and people will be coming and going from the hospital to the parking garage. So I think these locations will really meet the program for the public art. They'll be accessible, they'll be part of the wayfinding, so I think the locations are very good. In terms of the artists, I can't remember which one, but there's one artist whose bulk of her work was mostly medical facilities, health facilities, so she's done a lot of that in terms of meeting the program for a health facility. And I think the other two artists, I think their work will be very suitable for this location. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with.
I'm fine with the locations. Somehow I would like to be able to talk about light, even though we're only approving locations, but we're actually approving artists as well. So I would like to have some talk among us about light, and so that the artists know how we feel about lit projects. So maybe you can do your comments first, and then we can come back to that, okay?
Sure, Jane.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. We've had some experiences in town where pieces that are dependent on light haven't always been the most successful. So I think it is good that your plan is to make it visible both during the AM and PM, and maybe look at ways to light it, just not internally, but also, so don't be reliant just on the art piece, but that there's other types of light that can help make it visible at night. I really appreciate the fact that you're going above and beyond what, or most likely going above and beyond what you have to do legally. So I really appreciate that. I think it's the pieces are going to be not only valuable for the patients themselves, but also for the public that walks by there. And like I said earlier, I really appreciate the fact that you found artists that don't have artwork already in Walnut Creek. So thank you for that. And I'm fine with the artists and the locations.
Okay, so based upon my questioning, I really enjoy the art, despite my questioning, I guess. I enjoy the breadth of experience that each of these artists are bringing to what they're creating for John Muir and Walnut Creek. It's really important that public art is in fact public art. And I would only ask that, given that Walnut Creek is made up of several different ethnicities, demographics, economic rings, and they may be patients at your hospital, that the artists consider all of that when coming up with a concept, because when you're a patient, you are still who you are. Yeah. So I hope that when we see the concepts, we will see things that might remind us that, that was taken into consideration. Thank you.
May I ask, did you want to have a discussion of the lighting after you approve the locations and the artists, or do you want to do it now? It's up to you.
I'm sorry. I guess we should probably talk about that now, because it might affect the selection of the artist. I personally am really happy with the direction of the artists, and the items in your presentation, the works that you were pointing out and saying that you were thinking more in terms of the particular ones, certainly met with my opinion too. I'm only one of four, and pretty soon not to be one. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the public aspect of art. I am sensitive to what is public art. And I think that because of the lit building, that Tally's work becomes a piece of public art because you can see it very well from the outside. I think the neighbors, driving by in the evening will be happy to take a look at it and see how it looks that night. And there are a lot of people that do walk around. It is a very public area. So I'm okay with it being public art, even though it's a building and a very specified, it's not like people will be able to wander through, but they'll see it well from the outside. If an art pieces today, these days, are really based on light. The last ones that we've seen are very much that way, and as you browse through different websites and such for public art, you see that it's the big thing right now. What has happened to 4 or 5 pieces that we've done over the last few years is that the art usually looks pretty good at night. It hasn't totally worked, but it looks very ordinary and underwhelming during the day. And I think that's what we're worried about. So for example, the one of, I guess it was Barbara's, that was the tear-shaped one, which isn't a very good theme for that location, but
It's actually Antioch at the water.
but even though it was a nice aluminum surface or brushed steel, whatever it was, it just was way less exciting than the piece at night and kind of garish at night, if I have to say so. And so I want to somehow get a balance so that the piece really works during the day. And that's why I asked you how far along you were in the conversations with the artists, because I think most of the people on this panel agree with me. We've had some unfortunate experiences with it, so.
I actually agree with you. And it is something that one of the many things that I look at, just like when I look at a sculpture and I say, well, how can this be viewed? Is somebody going to be able to see it from above looking down on it? It also has to look nice there. It can't just be from the standard, I'm standing in front of it. And lighting is the same. That's part of why we're going for approval now, because that infrastructure that we're talking about is lighting. A lot of that is lighting. For instance, Barbara's piece, in order to have that piece, lit from the outside, because the interior lighting on Barbara's piece actually is still visible during the day. There's a slight color there. So that draws you in, and at night it just becomes warmer. But if there's exterior lighting also on the outside, then it doesn't become a negative impression of it. So those are the things that we're really looking at. We are extensively looking at, both for the wall relief piece, the same thing. We're looking at, is the lighting going to be behind the artwork, or is it going to be a combination of both? And then during the day, we're looking at color and seeing how can we introduce color that might also benefit from using the natural light, the sun, and everything else. So there's a lot of things that are being approached, and I agree with you. I think there are things that are successful, and the reverse. There's things that are successful during the day, and at night they just go away. And
Well, I'm not finished.
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
comment on
Okay, go
your
ahead.
comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that the name of the artist that's there now that has a piece, Gordon Huther.
Gordon Huther, uh-huh.
His piece originally was supposed to be with lighting for the path. During the day, you can't tell. And so I think that's exemplary of what she's talking about. And then with regard to that piece, since we're on the topic, that's a piece that the scale never really came together. Unless you're right there, you can't tell that there's art there. It's too small, so it wasn't. No one knows that there was a Gordon Huther piece there unless you happen to be there. So you can't see it from the outside. And then, you know, now that we're talking about it, yeah, please pay attention to scale. It's huge. Thank you.
Well, and it also sounds like your plans for your next presentation are to be able to provide us with images and videos, et cetera, so we'll get to experience it at day and night under different lighting
Right.
situations.
And from different viewing angles and with correct landscaping, so it'll, you know, accurately reflect those viewing angles, like what we were talking about as far as the trees and the canopy being high enough on the trees and things like that.
So it sounds like we're on the same page.
But I hadn't finished one of my thoughts.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the reaction to and looking at Joe's work for his piece during the day, perhaps it's not even necessary to have color. You can get really a lot of interest by the cutouts, the textures, the lines, the shapes, and all of those elements too,
Yeah.
so that, you know, and then color it, some little bit of color during the evening gives you that. I like that opposite, you know, where you said that one way it's kind of, it's like it's a positive shape and then you backlight it and then you get negative shape and that sort of thing. So, so I'm pretty excited about it. I like the scale. I like big. I used to say I like big and red, but I don't think that will work there. But that usually sells. So I'm very excited about it and looking forward to see what the next steps are.
Great.
Any other comments, commissioners? Wanna come back to a different topic, perhaps? Nope. Okay. Is anyone ready for a motion?
Can I do it?
Go
I'd like
ahead.
to move approval of both the artists and the locations for the John Muir Medical Center outpatient building.
Commissioner Cottery, could I just have you be specific about the artist, just so we have that for the record? It's in the recommended action. Thank you.
I knew they were first. Callie Fisher, Barbara Gregitis, and Joe O'Connell
Thank
are
you.
the artists.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
I'll take the roll. Thank you. Commissioner Cowdery,
Yes.
Commissioner Emanuel,
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith,
Yes.
and Chair Klauber.
I'm going to do a duo on this one. I'm going to say yes for the location, but no on the artists.
There's only one motion, though.
Yeah, we need, if you'd like to make a substitute motion, you may, Chair. So if you'd like to make two motions, you may do that.
Okay, so we'll split this and go, I make a motion to approve the proposed public art locations. Does anyone second that?
Second.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Roll call?
Chair Klauber,
Yes?
Commissioner Cowdery,
Yes.
Commissioner Emanuel,
Yes.
and Commissioner Meredith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay. And I'd like to make a motion to approve the artists, Tally Fisher, Barbara Regatas, Joe O'Connell, for the John Muir Medical Outpatient Building.
Can I ask, we should probably do this differently, because if you're going to move that and you're going to vote no on your own motion, that's a little bit confusing. So if you'd like someone else to make that motion, that's probably a better way to do it.
Makes sense.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the artists, Tally Fisher, Barbara Gregitis, and Joe O'Connell for the John Muir Oncology Center.
Second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Emanuel,
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith,
Yes.
Commissioner Cowdery,
Yes.
and Chair Klauber.
No.
Motion carries 3-1. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Let me see that I have this correct. Let me go to here. Next we have Next, we have reports on projects, and staff will present separately on the Public Art Projects Report and on the Leisure Center Strategic Plan Update.
Thank you, Commissioners. So I have some brief updates on public and private projects. And I was also asked to come up and provide a current public art fund balance. Tonight, I did look this up today. According to my evaluation of the accounts, our current balance is $1,217,000 in the public art fund, and this does appear to reflect the most recent deduction of funds approved by the council for the Vets Memorial. I can make sure of that and update your revenue with new developer contributions for your April meeting. But as of today, the balance I had was 1.217.
Can you repeat that amount again?
1,217,000.
Thank you.
In the private sector, I did report on these, I think, in January in your written report, but I just wanted to, for the benefit of the public, the installation of the interactive light pool artworks at the Heritage Building, 1511 Locust, was completed in December. And I encourage the public to go see this piece. It's awesome, and you really kind of need to be looking for it, since it's set back mostly on the developer's property. You can see it as you walk by on the sidewalk. You need to go and check it out. These light wells have a dichroic mirror surface. They reflect during the day. At nighttime, they light up, and you can interact with them, and you need to give them a good solid thwack with your foot or your hand, I guess, or somebody else's body if you choose. To set them off, and then they shift colors. You can walk up and down. It's just really a wonderful piece, and they also highlight the fact that there's a pedestrian paseo with benches, and I see people hanging out there with beverages and food and stuff. So it's a really interesting location. The developers, owners of the building, think it's a real gem. They're very proud of it. We do too. I also talked to the artist, and she said that I sort of thought, well, we do a lot of major projects, big projects, and this is a sort of a smallish one. She said, oh, I'm really proud of it. And she said she had one of the best experiences with their contractor as well as the developers, which is kind of nice. So she hopes to get out here and see it herself, since she had a team install it. And when she does, I'll let you know. And we are going to ask the Lazareski family to put in a plaque there. There isn't one yet. Let's see, the other project I wanted to update you on is Walnut Creek Transit Village, Phase 2. As a reminder, there are two key projects that you've approved there. One is the Aileen Barr mosaic tile project, stair risers at Pringle Avenue that lead, and then leading into the Paseo, there's bench backs all through the Paseo. This is coming along pretty soon, actually. I understand it'll be installed possibly in March. And they are going to put in two plaques for the benefit of the public. One will be on the wall alongside the stairs on Pringle, but the other will be at the far end of the project, so that either way or any place that you come into it, you get information about it when you first encounter it. Don't necessarily have to just walk through and end up at the one location to read about it. The other project is the mammoth stainless steel poppies and bees sculpture by Brad Oldham, Christy Coltrane. That's at the corner of California and Pringle. That'll come in a little bit later. That'll come in probably in late summer. So we should see all of this completed in 2022. And then also an update on the Rudney Plaza project. So this is the project that the panel and the Art Commission approved Mark Fornez for. Arts and Rec staff met with the project stakeholders on December 21st to explore potential locations on the plaza beyond those approved by the commission. The key location we had landed on here was a spot on the plaza near the Lesher entrance. That seemed to be a place that would work. Stakeholders did not support the plan to install art anywhere on the plaza itself. So as a group working with that group, we explored the site and we redirected the potential project to the sidewalk frontage along Civic Drive, which is a spot that would be essentially west of the main entrance all the way down to the corner of North California. That was the other option. We have shared this information with the artist. We've asked him to consider this site as the alternative to the original offering and really the only option for a larger outdoor work at the Lesher at this point. If he accepts it, we would plan to move forward with a visit from Mark and his team and a proposal. But if he does not, we will, we would like to return to the commission to consider alternative sites in Walnut Creek for Mark Fornes to work. We really want to stick with the artists who we were selected as the happy result of a rigorous public process that staff and the commission, the panel, invested in over many months. And we do not recommend revisiting the plaza space for any sculpture project, given the very limiting programmatic and public access restrictions if we aren't able to reach an outcome with Mark for this alternate site. So
Steve,
that's my report.
What's the timing on him getting back to us?
Well, ASAP, it's been a couple of weeks and they've been mulling it over. I haven't been able to reach them lately, so I'm not sure. I hope to have an answer soon, within the next 10 days, 2 weeks.
Steve, is it fair that by the time we come back to the April meeting, we'll have, and that's
Yes.
the latest, but something by then?
Yes.
Okay. If we get any information sooner, Steve will provide it in his written report. But if there's direction that we need to seek from you, we will come back in April at that point.
And can you give us a brief update on what's going on with the Vets Memorial? I know we approved the money, but it looks the same to me.
Public Works is moving forward with a RFP for the infrastructure, released anytime very soon, and we'll begin that work. The trees, we don't have a visual plan for you to review. I know the commission needs to review that and sign off, so we don't have that. So the two pieces are going to be executed separately. We're going to move forward with infrastructure of the fountain and the basin.
Where was that? I didn't hear.
Steve, I was going to ask you about
Vets Memorial.
the,
What place?
Jane, it's the Veterans Memorial Plaza out in front of City Hall.
That's the Vets.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear where you said. All right, I have a question. We've been going through this process of locations at the Leisure for months and months, years. In fact, the year 2000, I think it was, when they first started looking for a signature piece there. And but for this round, for a piece at this time, we've been talking about it for what, a year and a half or 2 years, and the manager of the building was okay with where the little piece of land that we were given to have a project on over kind of near the doorway. And we've gone through the whole process with design review, and I think they probably looked at the locations, and we had agreement on the locations, and now we don't. And I don't really understand why it has gotten to this point when we are as far away from any performers that would ever be out on the fourth stage. And I resent what's happened. I feel that it's in what's the word I'm trying to find, in error of the ordinance and the way it works. It's against the selection process. It's against everything that public art has done. And I'm ashamed that this has come to this point, and I feel like we've been hijacked. And I would like to know what kind of recourse we have. Catherine Baker talked about sharing an agreement, and now we have none. And they've reneged on their part. We were ready to compromise. We already did by the location that we were left with. And we had this long period of guessing and talking about and trying to figure out where we would place the art, and it's all gone. And I don't understand. I guess I understand some of it, but I don't feel that we should be ignored as the process servers of this.
At this point, and this may not be a satisfactory answer, this is not on your agenda. And so for us to engage in a dialogue about the direction of this project and some of the back and forth about how we got here, I think Mr. has explained that. If we do return to you, if the artist perhaps is not willing to make it work at this new location, we'll have a dialogue about that at that point. I think staff's explained how we got to where we are. I've talked to you individually about how we got to how we are. At this point, this is the direction that we're following. If we can make it work with the artist, we will share that with you at that point. But beyond that, again, because it's not agendized, I'm a little bit reluctant to get into too much of a dialogue about this, but happy to answer specific questions about the direction. But I can't really speak to the back and forth about some of the other things you're asking.
Although I do think at some point, I mean, I think Jane's comments are appropriate even if they're not on the agenda, and I want to agree with what she's saying that, so there has to be some venue. We can't just like roll over and say, this is all okay.
Yes, I mean, staff is not disregarding the comments, but just the specific questions we can't answer at this point. But your comments will be in the record and are noted. Thank you.
Right, right. I have a question about murals. So, when can we start planning for more locations for murals in Walnut Creek? Like, when do we get together and start talking about how we're going to implement the murals part of the plan more and do an expansion of what we have so far?
So you're probably talking about, well, maybe I shouldn't assume. Are you speaking about locations and outreach, types of artists, types of murals?
Yeah, like
expanding
the number of murals that we have and doing the public-private partnerships, sitting down and selecting sort of the target walls and locations for murals. When can we do that?
Well, we were talking about, and we're in the early stages, so I don't want to speak out of turn. We were talking about looking at a retreat for the commission that would be public art centric and would be also timed so that we have the opportunity to provide a lot of background to the new commissioners. That's a point at which I think we would want to get back into the strategic plan and goals. Staff can present to you where we're thinking of going with this, and then we can spend some time on that at that point. I think the last time we really got into it in more depth was when we adopted the strategic plan and then kicked that off with, mural after mural the first few years. So that's what we're thinking about in maybe late spring, early summer type of a time frame. And I haven't really had a chance to go over any specifics with the director, but that's what we see as like the kind of thing we could get our teeth into at the retreat.
Great, thank you, appreciate it. Very happy with the way that's, how many more murals Walnut Creek has and how successful we've been. Just looking to make sure that we don't lose momentum on that, because that's sort of my specialty interest. So thank you.
Of course.
Next, we're going to hear from staff about the Lesher Center strategic plan.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Carolyn Jackson, Interim General Manager at the Lesher Center. And earlier this month, we went to City Council with the recommendations from the DeVos Institute of Arts Management for the next 5 years of strategies for the Lesher Center. Council was very supportive of the overall recommendations, and we reviewed with them the top 8 items to move forward with most quickly. It is a 5-year plan, so some items will be further down the road. But these top 8 are what we're already making movement on, and they should be arriving on our screen shortly. And so I'll just talk you through where we are at this point. So we've been actively engaging with these. The first is to create a 3-year artistic plan. That's a rolling plan. That would be encompassing the Lesher Center Presents series, which we're viewing as more of the headliner type artists that we're curating and selecting as part of our season. The Center Rep season of typically 6 shows in a season, and then the Bedford Gallery season. And looking at those as needing to be in concert with each other, right? So not necessarily that any one is dictating what's happening in a different program area, but that we're able to plan on a 3-year arch so that we can see where there's synergy, where there's opportunity to align our plans to have a bigger impact for the community. So that work is underway. We're planning for the 22-23 season now, and we're targeting a May announcement for that. That would include a subscription series for Lesher Center Presents and for Center Rep. The next is to establish a new programming committee for the Lesher Center that would be comprised of our staff leadership, the Bedford Gallery curator, the Center Rep artistic director, more on that later in the slides, and then the general manager of the Lesher Center, alongside of representatives from DRAA's board, who would be looking again on this 3-year horizon and really generating a lot of ideas of where we could go in order to support that planning within our artistic team. And one of the things we are bringing to council next week is a contract extension with Michael Kaiser and the DeVos Institute to support us with some of this implementation, and the development of that programming committee would be one of the items they would support us with. The next item is the Lesher Center Presents subscription series. So as I said, we're targeting a May launch for that. So we have a very aggressive and detailed plan to get from here to there to build a brand new subscription series. And then again, we would have support from the DeVos Institute for that. Working with our cornerstone producers to really fine-tune what that means. What does it mean to be a cornerstone producer, and what relationship does that mean you're in with the Lesher Center that's different from others who are not within that category? Again, Michael will be helping us develop what the criteria is for a cornerstone producer and what ways partnerships will make sense. And so we have already, Kevin and I have done a number of meetings with our cornerstone producers. We're talking to them now about the May announcement and whether they want their seasons included in that announcement as an initial outreach of that supportive marketing. And then we'll do some more focus groups with Michael about how to develop that going forward. Working on a unified brand for all of our internal programming, which is more of a unified way of presenting the information. We're not looking to eliminate any brands or logos or names, but really looking at how we can guide people to the full scope of experience you can have at the Lesher Center. Right now, we kind of send everybody off to 4 different websites, and you don't really know how to connect any of the pieces. So we're in development now of a new website for Lesher Center that will include content for all of our resident programs, and we'll also have a new way in which we display our events to be a little more visually enticing in terms of how we present what's on stage, both our curated content and our renters. So that's targeted to launch in May. And then quickly on the heels of that, we're also working on a refresh of the Bedford Gallery site that would tie into the themes between the 2 sites. And we'll have a lot of cross-linkage that happens between those 2 websites so that you can navigate between content between both. We're just not anticipating May to be able to launch 2 new websites, but definitely the Lesher Center site. The DeVos Institute will be supporting us in the development of an 18-month institutional marketing calendar, really highlighting why you should be excited about Walnut Creek and the Lesher Center and what we're doing here, above and beyond coming to a specific show or making a specific event the target. So one of the things that we might touch on are different anniversary dates, different major milestones. If we have a world-renowned artist coming in any of our programming, that would be kind of an institutional piece of this is why the Lesher Center and our programs are really exciting and valuable. We'll be working very closely with DRAA on the development of a full range of fundraising plans. Right now, we do operate a little bit in silos. We have each program is doing a little bit of fundraising, plus DREA is doing work. So looking at how can we make that one comprehensive package and even develop some sort of membership program that is inclusive of all the programming we have. And then the last item is moving ahead with some of the recommended staffing changes at the Lesher Center, including the return of an artistic director for center rep and a new position for marketing to really support us as we move into this presenter model. Those items will require council action, so we don't have a specific date for when we'll start recruiting for those positions, as we first need to get full council approval to move forward on those positions. That's my top 8. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
How much longer is the engagement of the DeVos consulting?
The proposal that we're bringing to council is a 7-month extension, so into September.
Thank you.
I don't have a question, but just a comment that this is all very exciting and a long time coming, and I know you're going to be extremely busy, but I look forward to seeing all the outcomes of this plan.
Thank you.
I agree.
Oh, come on, Jane. There's more there.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now we're going to call on staff for individual updates. You're back?
I should have just rolled it all in. So some exciting upcoming events on this Friday, February 25th. We have Broadway star Brian Stokes Mitchell. He'll be singing a very uplifting, celebratory concert. He's really looking at this as part of sort of the resurgence of the arts, right, and people wanting to get out and just have a really great night. So we're looking forward to that. On April 19th will be opening night for Center Rep's production of Our Town. We did postpone that from February into April due to COVID implications, but we're really excited to get that finally open, and that runs through mid-May. And then on April 29th and 30th, we have Dance Theater of Harlem performing 2 nights. Again, very excited to have them as part of our season. They're a really wonderful company, a personal group that I'm very excited to see. So we hope you'll join us for that. More great stuff at lesherartscenter.org, including the upcoming Newsmakers series and presentations from our Cornerstone producers. Thank you.
Again, thank you. Are you coming back next? Just kidding.
No, it's while Emily Enders is making her way, tickets are on sale for all the shows, still available, a few for Brian Stokes Mitchell. So if you or your friends would like to come, please take advantage of that. See Carolyn at the back of the house.
Good evening, Commissioners. Emily Enders, curator at Bedford Gallery. Eric and Evan and I are currently in the throes of installing our show, which is opening this Saturday, the 26th. Member preview is from 5 to 6, of course. Arts commissioners are welcome to join at that time. General public is from 6 to 8. And so it's our exhibition Forced to Flee, which is a quilt exhibition of 36 personal quilts that tell stories of sorry, I'm blanking. Refugee crises, famine, oppression, climate change. So kind of runs the gamut of the things that people are being forced to flee from.
Thank you, Emily. Your engagement ring is beautiful.
That will either be in the minutes or not, I'm not sure. I have a few things, Chair. So sharing what some of you may already know, which is the City Council interviewed applicants for commissioners last Tuesday and made a decision about 2 new commissioners, one of which is Sarah Baltazar. Sarah, I believe, is watching virtually tonight. You will meet her soon. And then Jill Dresser, who is in the audience. Jill, you can wave. Jill, congratulations to both of you. They'll be sworn in on March 1st. Right, March 1st, right here. And then they will be seated here in April. So you can look forward to seeing two new friends here, which is exciting for us. And as Steve mentioned, because we do have two new folks, it'll be a good opportunity for us collectively to talk about where we are strategically as a commission in terms of the strategic plan and vision for public art, and kind of a recap on where we are with the public art master plan. So that'll be sometime in the spring, early summer-ish, TBD. And then one other update from me, which is the City Council also last Tuesday heard results of a poll that was taken of the community in January related to a potential sales tax measure, which could be put on the ballot by the council in November. And the highlight of that poll is that 57% of those surveyed indicated support for a half-cent sales tax increase, which would go toward general purposes such as public safety, emergency preparedness, parks, and open space. And then we will see where the council wants to go with this in terms of deciding whether they want to place on the ballot. They will decide, if they were going to do that, they will decide by July. So stay tuned on that. As commissioners, you may hear more about this offline. It's a proposition that the council is taking seriously, so there'll be more, I'm sure, shared about what's happening with that. That's my report, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that the final staff presentation for the evening? Okay. Now we call on the commissioners for individual updates.
Well, tonight is the end of my official duties as an arts commissioner. It's been 10 great years, but it may not be the end of me. I'm on the eligibility list, which enables me to be considered to fill any vacancies that should occur in the future. So I may be joining you back, and I look forward to that opportunity. But in the meantime, it's I should say a little something. I have a big thank you for everybody in this room. It's been an amazing part of my life. It's hard to imagine not being here. So I hope to be able to serve some more. And I want to thank all of you, especially Eric and Emily and Steve. You're a great team, and it's great to work with you. Kevin, you've been my support and my fan and my helper, and I appreciate it very much. And all of you here, it's been great working with you, so I hope to be able to continue doing it. And Jill, welcome. Jill and I were training group mates at the Bedford Gallery 22 years ago. It was the year 2000. We're the only two left from our class. She'll be a fabulous addition to this body, and I'm looking forward to meeting Sarah, and I know she will be too. So thank you for this opportunity, and I hope I'll be here again.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere. Thank you, Jane. It's adjourned.